Bud Light, I do believe, is worthy of substantial condemnation for what they did with this ad, and we're going to break it down for you and play what they're trying to do now to make up for that. Don't forget, Nike put this same person, Buck, in a sports bra and in women's leggings and tried to sell to everyone out there the idea that that women should buy this because they had the, which I think is even more offensive. So it's not just Bud Light. They were engaging in the same kind of behavior as Nike. I think Nike's actually worse, and 62% of you actually agree. Over, let's see, 26,000 of you voted. 62% said the Nike ad was worse. 38% said Bud Light. What's different, though, Buck, is the average Bud Light drinker is far more likely to be upset by this decision than the average Nike purchaser. And so I want to play for you. Bud Light is now scrambling, and they have a patriotic version of their branding that they're now trying to spread widely. Listen to this.
Let me tell you a story about a beer rooted in the heart of America, found in a community where a handshake is a sure contract. Brewed for those who found opportunity in challenge and hope in tomorrow. Raised by generations, willing to sip, share, risk, remember.
All right, I can't anymore. I can't do it anymore. Okay, so if a politician, let's just say, tried an ad that was similar to this, it would go viral immediately for being so disingenuous and cheesy. And it's amazing. I mean, I saw the guy, the CEO of Budweiser has an interesting background. He's a Marine, and now he's making like $12 million a year to run Budweiser. That's one of those jobs, by the way, hard to get, but I mean, don't do this is really the job description, meaning don't allow your marketing team to gratuitously insult the people that are actually drinking your beer on a daily basis. But it was kind of amazing to me. I felt like if they actually understood the real situation now, they would just they would come out and maybe go to some of the old school Budweiser ads. They'd maybe have a little sense of humor about things. They'd be a little self-deprecating in some of the ads. This, like, we're just going to put a horse in waving fields of grain, and we're going to have piano mood music. Like, am I getting a massage or am I watching a commercial here? The whole thing was just so PR slick nonsense. It's embarrassing. But I think that the problem is, Clay, they don't want to do the obvious things here because they're afraid that the wokeness will come after them, right? They should just be like, yeah, you're right, this is crazy. We should have never done that. And you know what? Let's run an old ad where we have a bunch of guys who are on the beach and there's pretty ladies and it's great. And they won't do that anymore, though.
Well, and I was watching a lot of the early 2000s ads because I went back and a lot of you remember how funny Bud Light used to be, right? The number one reason that you would watch beer commercials was they were engaging in a battle to be as funny as possible, whether it's the What's Up. Remember the Dr. Galowitzki?
Dr. Galowitzki. Of course, Clay. The best ads during the Super Bowl were generally the beer ads.
This is a funny story, Buck. So look, I'll just give you a couple stories on Bud Light. Bud Light, when I started Outkick, to show you how woke and crazy the universe of beer advertising has become, reached out because they wanted to advertise on Outkick. This was around 2013, 2014. So they were the official beer of Outkick. They would never touch Outkick now, and we're like 1,000 times as big now as we were 7 or 8 years ago. Also, this is kind of a funny story. Buck, when I was a kid, I went to church camp. And so, a lot of people out there listening probably know, especially in the South, you would go to, we went down to Panama City Beach, and we stayed in this, I bet that there's no way this physical structure is still there, But you walked in and there were like 20 bunk beds and everybody stayed there. And this would have been like 1990-ish. So around that era, 91, something like that, basically when America was still awesome. And I had on an old T-shirt that my parents had bought for me that was a Spuds McKenzie T-shirt. So when I was a little kid, Budweiser, those of you out there remember this, they had Spuds McKenzie, who was a little dog, the original party animal. Spuds McKenzie was always surrounded by like smoking hot chicks in a bikini, this dog. And so I had a Spuds McKenzie shirt. I had had it for a long time. My parents got it for me. My parents don't even drink, okay? But everybody likes Spuds McKenzie. Somehow I packed that shirt to go on the church youth trip. And our church youth director was like, sorry, you can't wear your Spuds McKenzie shirt, kid, on the church youth camp. It's a little bit too risque. My point on that is they were just trying to all entertain America. And now the question, Buck, is should we add on more steam, or should, because they advertise and spend money, I shouldn't say advertise, but they donate money to Republicans, should we step back and say, oh, there's nothing more here? I think you add on more steam. I wouldn't touch Bud Light if I were you. I would make fun of anybody that you know who gets a Bud Light, because I think this is one of the few times when you have an opportunity to really score points and run up the scoreboard on your side. There's lots of fungible Bud Light alternatives, and you need to make corporate America aware that if they're only going to pander to the woke, there is a consequence associated with that, and I think that's why Bud Light is running scared, Buck, and trying to put on these ridiculous propagandistic, suddenly patriotic ads.
You know, we all remember that this is much less a thing you'll hear these days than it used to be, but I'm sure you grew up with this thing too, which was, you know, sometimes you got to punch a bully in the face to get the kids to stop bullying you, right? Now, these days, of course, that's not allowed anymore. But the same thing I think is true of a lot of these corporations. I mean, they have to be. This is why we've supported Ron DeSantis standing up to Disney, for example. I think that you have to make an example of some of these companies that just out of, you know, there's always a combination of cowardice / ideological, lockstep, right? So on the one hand, it might just be these companies are afraid that they're going to get attacked by the woke left Democrat lunatics. There's also some places now, as we see in the case of Disney, where that some of the decision makers really believe this stuff. But either way, you've got to raise the costs of doing business for them in this environment, or else it just continues on. And I think that the right, generally speaking, culturally, psychologically, we figured out that we can either start to do things in response to the way that the politics or everything is being politicized all the time, or we can just let every corporation do the bidding of the far left lunatics and, you know, hope that they don't come for us for a little while longer. It's pretty clear, I think, what has to happen.
Yeah, and I would also add this. The response, if I were in charge of marketing at Bud Light, obviously I never would have been this stupid. And because I understand who drinks Bud Light, and I understand what that response would have been. But I think the response to Bud Light should be, we're going to advertise to everybody. That's the way out here, right? The way out is for them to say, we're going to buy every audience in America. We're going to buy Fox News. We're going to buy Clay and Buck. We're also going to buy MSNBC, and we might occasionally have an ad that appeals to trans people. I think most Americans would say, if that was the response, okay, you're a business that's marketplaces entirely determined by, you want 100% of the marketplace to consider Bud Light. So that's what you're going to do. I mean, it's basically Michael Jordan saying Republicans buy sneakers too. And Buck, my wife texted me because she's pretty fired up about this Dylan Mulvaney ad in a sports bra. And I know a lot of women are out there too. And she just sent me and said, the Nike ad is so much worse. They've spent decades trying to end sensationalizing the unattainable female body in ads. And then this is like trying to appeal to women who are maybe not in ideal athletic shape to work out and wear gear. And then she says in one single ad, they showed an ideal woman's body should look like an anorexic man's. And, I mean, I can't get over the idea of you're trying to sell sports bras to women by putting a dude with no boobs, a man literally with a penis and testicles, in a sports bra and having him dance around.
And it's also, I think, it's worth noting that you're supposed to accept this also. You can't even criticize this on an aesthetic level. Like, why are you elevating this person? Like, what about this individual's physique or anything else? If you don't say that he is a beautiful woman, you're a bad person. That's whatever. They immediately make this a moral crusade because the aesthetics of this are obvious, which is that actually Dylan Mulvaney looks like a deranged person, like a person that really needs severe mental illness and mental health intervention. But no, you're actually supposed to go beyond even. It's not about, okay, this is how Dylan does things, whatever. It's, you don't think that this is beautiful and to be celebrated? You're a bigot. You think about this in other commercials, right? I mean, it's not a nice thing to do, but you'd be like, I don't think that model's that attractive, or I don't think that guy's that charismatic or handsome or whatever. You must celebrate the aesthetics of Dylan Mulvaney, or you're an immoral, awful person. You're a bigot. That's the totalitarianism that is at play here.
This is where you're right, that they are soon going to pivot to, if you are a guy and you're not interested in hooking up with a chick with a penis, you're transphobic. Like, there's something wrong with you. And by the way, that is... Some of you out there are like, there's no way this is coming. No. That's going to, in like 3 years, it's going to be transphobic if you don't want to hook up with a dude with a penis, pretending to be a woman. Just telling you. That's where they're headed.